Good morning. Welcome. This is LoreForged, the podcast for Ashes of Creation, and we are your hosts. I'm joined by Mr. Returning from the AMA, Sonny Ravencourt.
I'm back, and I have so much to talk about. And most of it I'm allowed to, so that will be good.
That's right. That's right. It's going to be fun. And Cash is here.
I'm back, and yeah, it's actually nice to have Sonny back too. We've missed him over the past few days. He's been out doing some training, so we really haven't had any contact with him at all. So this is kind of the first time that we're all reconnecting for the week. So yeah. It's very good, and we're very excited to all be together.
Yeah, it is.
I totally forgot. I had like two things I was going to say, and then you went to me first, and I like completely blanked out like a professional. So I got two things. One, Goo made a comment before the show started that it was his two favorite Baldies and Sonny. And Goo, I got to tell you, I got so much concrete dust in my hair from this last week. I was on a military base doing like urban search and rescue and breaching walls and stuff like that. I, honest to God, thought I might have to shave my head. There was that much concrete stuck in my hair. And the other thing that I did was I operated a plasma torch for a while, and I got bored, so I made this.
Oh, he brought it home. He brought it home.
It is a large piece of flat metal with LoreForged scorched into it. We're going to have to work on your rose, buddy.
Yeah, well, it's pretty hot. I probably only burned myself like 6 or 7 times making this.
Oh, man. That's awesome.
Well, we're glad you made it out relatively unscathed and back to the mic, sir.
Yeah, the one that I didn't bring was I cut out of like an I-beam, so like thick iron. I cut with a plasma torch, Sonny for mayor, and it's on our Instagram. But that thing was only this big, but it must have weighed like 20 pounds. And I showed it to Kel, and she's like, "You are not bringing that home." So I took the thin metal one.
I will say this, Sonny, you have gotten way more forthright in displaying your nerdiness in your career than I did. It took me a good solid 15 years of working in our profession before like I felt comfortable coming out, so to speak, with my nerdiness. And you've done it here within what, the first 6, 7 years?
Good solid 15 hours it took me before they figured out what was going on with me.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, so it was a blast. It was a lot of fun. I mean, I'll tell you, you know what the most distracting thing in the world is? Seeing an F-35 Raptor do touch and goes while you're trying to concentrate on something, and just have this freaking miraculous jet just going off in your ear right next to you. It was just gnarly. So that was super cool. But yeah, I'm happy to be back. I'm a little busted up, to be totally honest with you. JB was saying that he's mentally tired. I'm physically tired. I don't know what Cash has got in the tank, but he may be carrying the show for us, to be honest.
That's fine. I'm good. I have some liquid fuel here. I did a half of a Yellowstone pour when I came home today, so that
It's a big ice cube in there too.
You know, I watched a GIF the other day of Yellowstone after last week's episode when, we were talking about Yellowstone pour. Maybe it was last week's episode. I was talking about Yellowstone pours, and I was watching, Kevin Costner take a drink in the show, and I'm like, and I kept rewatching it, and I paused it right before he takes a drink to see how much they actually pour. Holy cow.
No, I wasn't kidding.
Legit.
I mean, like, how does that man have a liver? I'm like, goodness. Impressive.
If you want to see somebody pour more than Dad does, you got to see how much Beth pours in her glass.
No, I got to watch it again.
She's a little off her rocker though on the show, but yeah, they're pretty fat pours, and that's where Yellowstone pour came from.
That's awesome.
Man.
Well, hey, it's a big day here, fellas. This is our 40th episode. 40 episodes.
40 episodes. 40 episodes.
That's 4 decades.
4 decades. If we were dog years, it'd be 280 episodes.
We'd be on soft food already.
On a soft food diet. Oh, Well, everybody, thank you so much for Push and Play, hanging out with us. Everyone here at LoreForged Live, we are doing this live on Twitch, and there is so much love going around the 40th episode. We've had 38 gifted subs happen tonight already. It's absolutely insane. Just everyone hanging out here. Welcome in. Thank you so much for hanging out with us, everybody. And this week on the show, we have, well, I'm just going to be honest, it's all AMA. Now, that said, next week we have Nice Gaming joining us on the show, and that's going to be a good time. So that's May 22nd. Mark your calendars. Come join us. We get to have Nice on with us. I'm looking forward to that. It's going to be a good time.
Very much so. I really enjoyed hanging out with the content creators over the AMA process, and we'll get into that a little bit. But like you just brought up, Nice is legitimately nice. It's not just a clever nickname.
Yes. And I'm just going to throw it out there. If anybody has any specific questions that they would like us to ask Nice Gaming, then shoot us an email.
Yeah, absolutely. There you go. Guys, this was a very big thing for the community. You felt it when you walked away from it. Everybody, like the general consensus, it feels like in the Ashes of Creation community was that was an AMA that everyone really seemed to enjoy. Now, Sonny, you had a fun time on there, from what I understand, everything on and off the air. And so how'd that go for you?
Oh, man. Like first of all, like the whole process was just out of the blue for us. We did not know this was coming at all. And then a couple weeks ago, Margaret reached out. She jumped into our Discord, joined our Discord to get my contact information, and then left the Discord. And so people are looking at like the admin stuff, and it gives a little thing like wave to Margaret. She's joined the Discord. She's long gone. She was there for like 11 seconds. And so she threw our community for a loop. But she sends me this message and she says, hey, you know, we're going to be doing this thing, and we'd like somebody from your team to join along with the AMA. Would you be interested in doing this? Let us know by tomorrow morning. And so, of course, you know, immediately we're just texting each other and like trying to get a hold of each other. And of course we're going to do it. Right. And so then we have to figure out who's going to do it. And we say, great. And she's like, okay, just send me all your socials, a headshot, all your graphics and everything like that in the next 12 minutes. I'm like, ah! so I'm like running around. My parents are in town. And I'm like, I gotta get like a headshot. I gotta take a picture. So I tell Kelly, like, my phone is gonna do this. It'll take a excellent enough headshot for this thing. And she looks at me and she goes, "But you're going to shower first, right?" I'm like, well, no. I am now.
I don't want to shower. I don't want to.
I wasn't going to, but I think I need to.
Going to shower. It feels like this is not so much a question as a directive. So then over the next 2 weeks, we all lined up our questions. And you're going to love this about LoreForged. We have 3 of us, right? And so everything moves at 3 times the speed, I feel. And so when they said, okay, well, you're going to have 5 questions, go ahead and by tomorrow afternoon, we'll open up the thing and you can start to put your questions in. Well, you know, we had those questions lined up in the next hour. So we were, as soon as that doc opened up, we had 5 questions on it. And Vladis was still like making questions the morning of the stream, and Margaret is like vetting them. It was so funny to see the different personalities come out. Jamie Chaos, super nice guy. Anyone that's watched Jamie and Annie Lace do their show, you know, they have a pretty like edgier show than we do. And you never really know what people are like. I got to know him pretty well. Super nice guy. Now, Nice Gaming is Nice Gaming. Like we all thought that we knew Nice Gaming, and we do. He is exactly who you see on camera. And then Vladis is Vladis. Like Vladis is just a guy that is super into Ashes of Creation. I think his community picked all of his questions. That's cool. Just over the course of 2 weeks.
Which is pretty cool. And we're sorry. We're just throwing it out there right now. Like, we're sorry because we picked all of our questions.
We did. People were asking like, is the community going to pick your questions? And I'm like, yeah, about that. Those questions have already been picked. Oh, so no. Feel free to ask them.
I want to throw something out there though, just as a general thought, and that is that how lucky are we to be in a pre-launch phase for this game and have so many really, really good, just fun content creators to be around and be able to witness a company like Intrepid in the development of this game just grab hold of folks and like they're making a family. Like, honestly, I feel like the content creators for Ashes of Creation have created a little family, and it's super refreshing.
Yeah. It really
was, it was very fun. Everyone was really cool with it. So we're morning of going into this thing, and an hour before they like open it up, and 2 hours before that, I didn't even think about this because I thought it was going to be on Discord. And Vladis, maybe it was Vladis or Jamie. It was probably Jamie that said like, "Hey, what are the mechanics of like how this phone call is going to be made?" And Margaret said it'll be on Zoom, and I'm like, "Excuse me?" So I have to like real quick download Zoom because I haven't used Zoom since like pre-COVID or something like that. Like, oh my God, a Zoom phone call? Really? And then we're all getting ready and we're good to go. And Steven's not there. And I'm kind of like, okay, busy dude. We're going to see how this plays out. And I guess he was in like a performance review with an employee. Like he was legit doing serious meetings with people up to the minute of the show. And then he just picks a desk. It looked like he was just like, that desk, get out of here, buddy. And then he sits down, turns on the camera, and he's like live. And Margaret's like, so are you going to MC or am I going to MC? And Steven's like, I guess I can MC. And so he just MC'd the whole thing. And Margaret was in our ear for the thing. Not for a lot of it. She wasn't constantly in our ear, but she was there. And it was just a blast. The whole thing was a blast. And I got to say this. This is the last thing I'll say before we start. We were warned not to ask lore questions by the community because the common prevailing wisdom was that he would dodge lore questions. And I think it's fair to say, Cash, he did not dodge our lore questions. We asked him anyways, and we were prepared for the dodge, and he went full tilt into it. So we were super happy.
He did. We were very happy about that. And, of course, if you invite LoreForged on, it's in our name. You got to know that we're going to at least give it a shot. And I think Margaret was pretty gracious in letting us ask those questions. But at the same time, we were very careful about the way that we crafted those questions as to not try and dive too deep, because we know that they're keeping lore close to their chest, and we're fully aware that lore is not everybody's shtick. Like, we totally get that. But I think for a lot of the folks that watch our show and pay attention to the content that we're putting out, and it's obvious, it is a smaller chunk of the community, but you are out there and we are there for you. So thank you for supporting the things we do. And as we say that, we get gifted subs from Vladis himself.
More gifted subs.
You are amazing.
Vladis, awesome, buddy.
I want to give Vladis a special shout out because they spelled Vladis's name wrong in the stream, in every aspect of the stream. It was the H that screwed him. The H, Vladis, you really sent yourself down a difficult path with this. I'll say, because the poor people that were designing it. And Margaret was like just so I think she was just mortified because they had screwed it up in something in the past on like on a social media thing. And Margaret had gone over to the graphics guy and been like, no, Vladis, the H goes here, not here, not here. And then when the thing goes live, Vladis is like, yeah, my name's spelled wrong. And Margaret's like, oh no, because she can't do anything about it because she's not like entering this stuff in, right? Like these are fixed assets.
Yeah.
And then she was looking for like the files and they just weren't there. And all she could do was just say sorry. And Vladis was a totally good sport about it. And you could tell that Margaret actually legitimately felt bad. But yeah, that's an inside story there.
I had the Vladis thing figured out a long time ago personally, because I was like, okay, I can't ever screw this up. So whenever I see Vladis's name or say Vladis's name before that, I always say Vladis. Vladis. It's my own personal mental trigger.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Well, we got a lot of takeaways, and there's a lot of things that we could look. If we're being honest, we probably could pick one question and sit on it for the entirety of the episode. And I know we're not going to be doing that. And so we're going to kind of gloss over some things. I thought that some of the main takeaways, number one, rogues will have true stealth. That's a pretty big deal, dudes. We didn't know what was going to happen. Now we do. We kind of saw a little bit of that stealthy mechanic with the Ranger, where it kind of has that Predator vibe, you know, from the Predator movies. And with the Rogue, true stealth. That's a big deal, Cash.
Yeah, I think that's a huge deal. And I really think that World of Warcraft ruined that for everybody. Or, might you say, made it better for everybody. Because when you have limited stealth, especially as a rogue, a character that is built around some type of a sneaky, stabby mechanic, without true stealth, it's really not a rogue. Rogues should be able to have that stealth and, and find their way into the shadows. Like that's their whole thing. However, I think what that is going to equal is a very squishy class. That is what I personally think.
Oh, yeah.
There's going to be a lot of weakness to that class. But if you get caught and you're not sure how to get out of it, and if you're like me in my first days of PvP, we're just like JoJo the circus clown trying to figure out what to do to hitting all the buttons, you're gonna die quickly. Exactly.
Oh my God, those early days of MMOs.
Oh yeah.
Right.
I wish I could
sometimes maybe even still I might do that. I get jumped by a rogue in Warcraft.
I feel like I'm getting worse as a gamer, as I age. Like it shouldn't really work like this, but I'm pretty sure I'm getting worse. One of the other things with the rogue that was the big reveal, and it's funny, Vladis is in the chat, and he will remember the look on all of our faces when Steven said that the rogue will unfortunately not be in the Alpha 2. And honest to God, that was like a moment for all four of us where we're just like, excuse me? Like, whoa, that is a big note. JB, no rogue, no summoner. Summoner we kind of knew, but rogue definitely I thought was going to be in there.
I'm totally fine with it because I know they're just not going to be in there initially. They'll be there in the first update is what I believe is what he said. And so I'm fine with that. Like take your time, like give this, because they've probably got a timeline, the things they want to show before Alpha 2. And rogue's a big deal. Summoners, arguably, possibly a bigger deal because of the hype around the community surrounding that specific class seems just to be always at an 11, And so they're going to want to make sure the reveals are right. And if that's what it takes, to make sure that reveal is right, just as grand as it was when you saw the fighter and the cleric and the ranger, then absolutely take that time. You only ever get that reveal once. So it's gotta hit.
Yeah, it's going to be a big deal. The other one is going to lead me into kind of a quick thing that I just want to do here. I know I didn't really pitch this to you guys pre-show, but I looked at the questions that you were going to ask. So our show tonight is going to be 3 questions. And the 2 questions that you guys picked out of the AMA are not questions that we asked. One of them is mine, and it is in fact the econ question that I asked.
I'm glad you brought that one, actually.
Yeah. So, well, yeah. Let me tell you, man. I probably watched that answer like 40 or 50 times to try to dissect exactly what he's saying. Like, it is, sometimes this dude is speaking like on another plane of existence, and you're just trying to like decipher it. So what I'm going to do real quick is I'm just going to go through the 5 questions that we asked very quickly and give you the nuts and bolts of essentially what he answered. And we had, and I didn't realize this, we had 3 lore questions. We had a majority of our questions were lore based. So it started off with the Tulnar. Cash, do you remember the look on the chat? Like as we asked a Tulnar question and he started talking about the Tulnar, I thought that was the biggest win for us of the entire stream.
Yeah, it was actually quite exciting to see people get into the lore. And I was watching the chat very closely just from a content creator's perspective, just to see how people feel about lore. Like I was saying again, it's not everybody's shtick. And I know some people are just like, God, you have an opportunity, like ask him my question.
Right.
Like, dude, we're going to ask some questions about lore and we have to, but people seemed surprisingly excited to hear a question about the Tolnar, and it just like Tolnar all the way down the chat. It was pretty cool.
Yeah. It was cool to see him talk about that. And especially in times past, so many times past, when it's known that he doesn't answer lore, the fact that he was able to answer lore this time around, that was awesome. And it was cool that it was the Tolnar to start it off, because that is such a mysterious race. There's so many people in the AshesOfCreation community that's excited to see what they look like, all the renders and the armor and just that whole, I don't know, vibe, that lifestyle that the Tolnar live. And so that very tribal-esque feel. So that was really cool.
Yeah, and that's pretty much what the answer to the question was. The question itself was basically like, what are they doing down there? Like, what are they like? It's been a long time since they've popped their heads out, and now all of a sudden people are coming through the portal. What's going on down there? And the answer was largely tribal, right? Like it felt very Native American sort of tribal to me. Like there are groups that get along, and then there are other groups that do not get along. But the big reveal out of that was that some groups might be doing pretty well because we think that there might actually be a metropolis under there, which is a big deal. Tolnar Metropolis was pretty popular with the chat. So that was very cool. Second question was not quite as cool for us, but it was still worth asking. And that was Cash's question. Cash was very excited about this, and it was about discoverable dialects. Cash?
That one was really born from us witnessing what the goblins were chanting when they were doing their spells, the goblin shaman in the fighter video, the fighter showcase. That one, when I started like kind of isolating the sounds a little bit and turning certain things up, and I was blown away to hear the chanting coming from those shamans. So my question really became, are they writing languages for this? Are there going to be texts and different things that are going to be discoverable that really allude to different dialects in the game? Similar to, probably the best example I have of that is Elvish in Lord of the Rings. I mean, it was written on the One Ring. So something like that, I think would just add so much depth. And I think understandably so. For now, they are getting, at least this was Steven's answer, for now, they're getting the basics of this game down, but he was very open to the prospect of potentially introducing some type of different discoverable dialects in the game. So I'm really hoping down the line that something like that does take place. It would really add to the lore.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I thought it gave me a nice opportunity to make a joke about Tolkien's kids. So I enjoyed that. Just trying to, it was tough. Like Vladis will appreciate this, that you're on this show and you're given an opportunity to ask these very specific questions, but you want to show some personality and have some fun with it. And it is this real touch and go situation. So the funny moment with that where we're all playing this game. All four of us are playing this game. What's too much? What's not enough? You know, how do you do this thing without just asking the question and then quietly waiting for the response? Was when Jamie Chaos had the Juggernaut thing, and everyone wants to do the Juggernaut line, right? And Jamie is dying to do the Juggernaut line, but he knows he shouldn't do the Juggernaut line. Right?
And then Steven stole it.
And then Steven does the Juggernaut line, and he's like, yeah. So that was just kind of a beautiful moment. It was really good. The economy question was our third question, and I'm going to deal with that later in the show. The fourth question was a banger, and that was guild freeholds. This was a question that, so we could all see each other's questions over the 2 weeks, except for Vladis, who didn't finalize his questions until 8 minutes before the show started. And so we were like looking at each other's questions to make sure that we didn't ask a question that somebody else was asking. Like, I'm sure nobody really said don't do that, but we're all looking at each other's questions to make sure that this is not a thing. So the question was about guild freeholds, because freeholds are such a hot button topic. And there was another content creator that asked questions more specific about freeholds, but like the other way to get a freehold is the guild freehold system. And it was just very up in the air as to what that actually was. Is it just a guild hall? What does it even mean? What happens with it? And JB, do you remember the answer to this, or do you want me to just roll through this?
No, go ahead, because I don't remember anything from it.
Okay. I had to like watch the whole thing again because I didn't remember a lot of it because I was in a million places. So the answer is basically that the guild freehold system is a freehold with plots of land, and you can expand out the plots of land in your guild freehold. So you get a guild hall and then plots of land.
So cool.
So it's just like a freehold. The difference is that your guild could have 300 people. So like who gets to do what and how does that work? And the answer is it's doled out by guild management. So guild management is the one that sets the permissions and the abilities for the guild to use the plots of land. And then this was my only follow-up. I only asked one real follow-up the whole time. And I said, if I own a guild freehold, can I still own a tavern? And the answer I got wasn't really the question I was asking, because what I wanted to know was, does the guild hall replace like the inn and tavern? Do you know what I'm saying?
Oh, I see
on
what
a
you're saying.
freehold?
Yeah.
Instead, the answer I got was largely about the town, the node in town, because you can get a tavern in two different ways. You can get one on a freehold, or you can get it like a business ownership in a node. And he said, yeah, those are two different systems. You can totally own a tavern in a node. And then he kind of talked about that. And I'm like, okay, I wasn't going to interrupt him and be like, no, dummy, I want to know on the freehold.
We're really glad that you didn't do
that. Thank you for brand management's sake.
We just kind of let that one go.
That you did not do that thing.
Steven's not a dummy. We all know this.
But that's good. There was a few Sunny for Mayor comments in the questions about the guild stuff. So that was a lot of fun. The last question was, and this was like kind of the loosest lore question that we had, but we thought it was a good one because this one comes as close as it gets to actually telling us what the game will be. And that was, what is the average person's experience with the essence? And Cash, do you want to talk a little bit about this?
Yeah. So this one was, when you look at the essence and what it is, or what we think it is for now, it is very much reminiscent of the Force in Star Wars. You either have it or you don't. So if you could think of, if you're not Star Wars fans, and I'm really sorry, you might want to just mute it or go make a sandwich or something for the next 30 seconds or 4 minutes, because I usually rant. Anyway, the Force initially is something that is very loosely felt, maybe something is very lightly felt by somebody in the Star Wars universe. And it turns out that the essence is kind of the same thing. Not everybody is going to have the ability to tap into the essence, but for some reason, everybody coming through the portal from Sanctus is able to, besides the expeditionaries and those people that come through the portal and just become NPCs and merchants and smithies and such. Some of the people that we might come in contact to or in contact with as characters talking to an NPC. An NPC probably doesn't. But it is something that, dependent upon the class that you choose, you will either be able to very deeply tap into the essence, or say for more of the folks that choose a martial skill as your main class, probably tap into it a little bit less. But there still is some ability in each of the player characters in the essence, which was kind of cool. Like, I was okay with that answer.
Very much so. The way that I heard it, and it was a long and sort of deep answer, so I think that people heard it in different ways, and we'll truly find out at the end. But it immediately rang Star Wars to me, but in a slightly different way than you're reading it. For me, it was one of those things where, like, everybody has it, kind of like the Force, right? Like, you sort of need the Force to, I guess, live in the Star Wars universe, but many people just have no, like, awareness that it's going on. Some people have a good ability to use it. Some people have a very good ability to use it. And so the question that I really want to know is, like, okay, us as players, like, what is our ability to use it versus the average person? And Steven said, like, you might run across people that have no ability to use it, or you might run across somebody that has, like, an even better ability to use it than you do, which was kind of cool as well. But he did say that the players themselves are a little bit special. Like, they're not the Dovahkiin, but they're all better than average as far as their ability to use that. JB, what are your thoughts about sort of the essence as almost a force connection?
I mean, it's an easy connection for us. Like, we're all, we grew up, that's how we met, was through our Star Wars fandom, over a decade ago now. And so for me, like, I like it. I think it makes sense. I think it's fun from a design perspective. I think it's really fun from particularly a narrative standpoint. The possible storylines that they could create off of that, it leaves it wide open, like having varying degrees, like you're talking, someone who's very strong with the essence and those who are not. And it'll be hopefully some fun dialogue in there as well. Those choices that you can make in these some of these quests. So yeah, I really do like it. I'm glad that this was the lore for it. Yeah, it fits. It fits really well.
Wait, are you saying that I can't be the Dovahkiin in Ashes?
No.
Can you please name your character Dovahkiin?
Dovahkiin 1, Dovahkiin 2.
Bob Dovahkiin.
Oh my God. For mayor.
Bob Dovahkiin for mayor.
Oh, that's funny.
I don't know
I want
about
Bob Dovahkiin to be running for mayor of, like, the worst plot of land out there. Like,
yeah. My campaign slogan is Bob Dovahkiin is going to be like, I used to one-shot world bosses.
Bob Dovahkiin used to be an adventurer. Now he's running for mayor.
Even though he took an arrow to the knee.
Oh my God.
Oh, that's good.
Bob Dovahkiin. Sonny is definitely running against Bob Dovahkiin. He is going to show up in a Sonny for Mayor video. My opponent, Bob Dovahkiin.
Just opens it with a shout.
I can't wait for that. Oh my goodness, that is absolutely happening. All right, good. JB, you ready to take us into your question?
I am. So one of the ones that really stood out to me, and truth be told, I'm way more excited about both of yours, because Sonny's, when we were doing a stream the other day, we went directly to that question because that was one I really wanted to see what they had to say, and Cash's as well. And so, but mine is, how large and intricate will the dungeons be? That was something that was brought up, and I want to say, Vlad, was that you, or was that Nice, or was it? I think it was Vlad, or maybe it was Jamie. Actually, I don't know now. But anyway, I just thought it was really, really cool. Some of the main takeaways. And there's a quote in here I really want to read. But before I get to that, it talks about how the dungeons are open world and some are contained with in instances. And so those instances being either individual, party, or raid. And there's a quote. Here's a quote here. That was Jamie. It was Jamie. Thank you, chat. Steven says, quote, part of being a PvX game is natural friction that occurs when scarcity is a real thing. Scarcity in this case means that not all hunting areas are the same quality. So loot tables, spawn rates, experience values, different compositions of mobs. Due to these tiers of quality of hunting grounds, this creates a rarity value due to the limited scarcity / limited space. And finally, he says, we will create very large spaces that host many groups and also very small areas that cater to 1 or 2 groups. So that part I really like because it adds depth to PvE where scarcity is a big deal. If there's a group farming or they're working through that dungeon and, they mentioned Carfin, which can hold up to at some point over 18 people, 18 groups. I'm sorry. Like, that's gonna have some conflict there if you really want that resource that they have, or vice versa. Like, it's gonna be really interesting to see how something happens. What if, I'm gonna throw this and I'm going to you with it, Cash. What if you have 2 different parties, it's from a friendly guild, but they equally need this thing just as bad as you do, and you're of the same node? Then you have some decisions to make. You have to really think about conflict. And I like how it just seems like they're like putting the bumpers like on the bowling alley and just like letting the players like figure it out with this system. I just thought it was really cool.
That's the beauty of a sandbox. You have that sandbox there where you have systems in place. We've talked about this before. You have systems in place and you allow the players to make their content. So this is where, when you have, in your example, when you have a resource that is needed for crafting, that and then you have 2 guilds who are friendly to each other. They might even be allied. This is where the true test is going to come into play with coordination between those guilds and between your alliances, or just in between different guilds and different groups operating within your node. Because, and the thing that I would think of is, okay, this area is open for such and such a guild to be able to gather those resources on such and such a night. And the alternate guild, maybe as a show of good faith, goes there to protect them while they're doing so. And then they swap the next night. That would be a really good example of good coordination between guilds so that everybody can benefit from said node, to keep outsiders out. Like, sorry guys, this is our node. We're maintaining this node. We're nurturing this node. You are not. You're just here to steal our resources. And vice versa. Maybe you have 2 guilds that are getting along pretty well, but they show up at that spot for that particular resource. And now all of a sudden those notions of goodwill have some tension leaning on them. And now those 2 parties are now upset with each other over said resource. And that's where that PvX, that beautiful PvX, comes into play. And that's when guild leaders will talk. They'll get messages when they're in their meeting at 11:30 in the morning that such and such is going on, and you need to handle this. And, then guild leaders start talking, and that's when politics start happening. So we've talked about it before, how the politics in this game will far exceed the game. They are going to happen in texts. They are going to happen in angry messages to people over Discord. And that is the beauty of what Ashes of Creation is building. I can absolutely see this happening as a PvX game when you have resource scarcity. And I think it's a beautiful thing.
There's going to be, just like in the Mafia, when you have a sit down, between 2 main men and you're basically sorting out this issue, there's going to be a lot of sit downs in Ashes of Creation.
I made him an offer he couldn't refuse.
Every now and then those sit downs end up with somebody taking a bat to the back of the head. So maybe be a little careful.
You never know, right?
You sit down at the table.
We're holding one of them down while he watches us beat his brother to death with a bat and then kick him in a hole.
Where'd you get that armor?
All right.
It fell off a truck.
Casino, nice pull. Anyway, so yeah, Tower of Carfin. I thought that was really cool that they talked about that. You know, that there you have the tower itself and the wreckage below, as far as having two primary sections where players can really dwell. You know, the wreckage beneath it can house 3 to 5 players with different groups, and then you have the tower itself, which is intended for full parties with 6 levels. That houses anywhere from 3 to 4 groups each level, which is a lot of people. So yeah, there's that. But yeah, overall, I just thought it was really cool, Sonny, the depth that we were able to get from just the idea of these dungeons, the way that they're handling them. So it's cool.
Yeah, it's something where I think that people were looking for. I don't know what people were looking for in this answer. You know, like this one's kind of out of my wheelhouse as far as what people want. Like, do people want the old school 40-person raid, you know, where you're having to calendar with everybody else and do this whole thing? Or do they want what this is, which is kind of a more modern approach to raiding? And I'm curious about your thoughts about what you think Ash's players want out of those things versus what the answer was that he gave.
I think what Ash's players want is old school. I mean, that's, speaking for myself, that's exactly what I want. Any game I'm playing right now is just tiding me over because there's nothing that I can play that's remotely what I want to play. And as far as the 40-man, I'm just saying this is 100% slighted, okay? Just because I've never done it, I'm just going to say, yes, I want that thing. I want to be a part of 40-man raids. I want to go see what that experience is like. Now, I don't want that headache of leading said thing. I want to absolutely take advantage of someone else's major stress during the leading a 40-man raid.
More dots.
More dots. In my case, hots, laying out the heels. So, yeah, I like it. Cash, you're looking at me like you holding a fart.
I'm looking at you. Well, that's usually the case. I'm looking at you because you just dropped a bomb, and I want to see if you hold to it.
I know. I heard it too. Did you hear it when he said hots?
Now, okay. Let me throw this out there. El Guapo, could it be that you are playing a healer in World of Warcraft right now? Are you really going to stick to that when Ashes of Creation comes out?
See? That's what I'm leaning towards. I really am. I've been reading the wiki a lot. I've been playing specifically a holy priest because I feel like that's what's closest to a cleric. Just trying to get a feel. I've never been a healer. You know this. I've never dedicated myself to it, and I've been playing this healer hard, trying to learn it, and been having a lot of fun. So, yeah, dwarf healer, Dunir, deuces.
I think Sonny liked my Three Amigos reference.
Oh my God, I'm gonna use that so often now when someone says something that I know is not actually what they mean.
Yeah.
El Guapo. Could it be that you are you're currently playing a healer and you're excited like this week, but maybe you're not going to stay with the thing, but it's just
we know
moment.
It's an old reference, you guys, and we're really sorry that we happen to be on the upper tier of the age limit.
What is that guy's name? That guy's got to have a name. I have no idea what that person's name is. All I know is El Guapo.
Oh yeah. What is that?
We got to find that guy's name.
I don't know. We got to make some memes on.
What a brilliant reference. I'm going to use that. I'm going to use that tomorrow if I get a chance.
I'm glad you like.
Oh, so good.
For me, in regards to this system, I think that players, at least the folks that are in our chat, the folks that are listening to our show, and the folks that are listening to the other amazing content creators out there, these are the folks that are looking for something different, and they're really buying into this PVX format Ashes of Creation has decided to chase, because we are looking for something new. But at the same time, I still believe that the game, because it is going to be a new MMO in a desert of new MMO titles coming out. Like, it is dry, you guys. I know that you know what I know. It is super dry with MMO releases. So we're going to get a lot of people to try Ashes of Creation, and some people are going to have been so deeply indoctrinated by the conveniences of World of Warcraft that having to compete for a resource that is not going to respond 4 seconds after somebody takes it, or set aside the fact that somebody right in front of you can take a node of Earthroot and it is also there for you to take. That system is not going to be available in Ashes of Creation. And I think it could lead to a lot of frustration for folks who are just so in tuned with modern MMO conveniences. It's going to be a big difference for them. And so I can kind of see both sides of the coin. The Ashes of Creation may not be for everybody.
And understandably so. You know, like, well, look at it this way. People who are maybe, I've seen a lot of people saying, and I'm just going to use Warcraft again, I'm sorry, that, you know, like they're 2 years in, or they just played for the first time and they're loving it. You know, like those people, you probably won't see them over in Ashes. Maybe you will. I don't know. But like, I really feel like Ashes is a love letter to the old school RPG, and that's the crowd you're going to pull. You know, like, it's not going to be for everybody. It's a niche game. Look, we create lore for a niche game, and then within that niche, the people who like said lore. So we create, as creators, we create a niche within a niche. Which is a
but you know
very
what, you know
small
what's
fraction.
Beautiful? You know what's beautiful about us placing ourselves in a niche within a niche is that we are perfectly content.
Yeah, we are.
With our choices.
We really are.
I love it.
This is where we enjoy our game. This is where we are now. I mean, look at this community that is rallying behind the things that we're doing and the things that we're showcasing in our own little videos and such. And there's an audience for it. So it makes me very happy to see that. To see one person showing up, we would be creating content for that one person.
It's so funny though.
I love it.
Yeah, seriously.
Like, how, guys, have you heard? There's like 7 million people listening to podcasts. We should make a podcast that 35 people will be interested in. Let's do it about video games. That's great. Let's do it about video, but not just every video game. Let's do it about MMO video games.
I love this pitch.
Okay, that sounds good. What about if we just did it about games that aren't released yet? Okay, what if we did it about games that aren't released yet, but only the part of the game that most people aren't interested in? The lore. This sounds great. This is a great idea.
It's so true.
Yeah. We went from a flow to a straw, from a river to a straw, and we're perfectly content.
And we love it.
Space.
Yes. Ugh. Oh my gosh, we're 40 episodes in. I seriously don't feel like we've hit 10 episodes yet. Like, it's just you know. It's the sky's the limit, man. It's so much fun. Sonny, let's go to your question though, because I feel like we're never going to get to it if we don't. If you don't take us there.
The people that love our show love our show,
and thank you for that. We love you.
Yeah, I think it'd be funny to see, like, some people will watch our show and hear us talk about lore and just like banter between 3 friends, and they'll just be like, people. Come on over. Big hugs,
We're
cookies,
your people.
and whiskey for you.
Oh, good times. Okay, so here we go. All right. I was allowed to ask an econ question. The guys let me ask an economy question, and I was so grateful. And so here's how this question came to be behind the scenes. So I am and JB and Cash are all in a Discord with some of the other content creators. There's like sort of a content creators Discord. And we don't talk all the time, but, you know, sometimes we ask each other stuff if we're curious about something to make sure like we've got our ducks in a row before we go in the air and sound like idiots like we normally do anyways. So I asked a question, and this one had been bothering Burns and I. as to whether or not auction houses were in only economic nodes for the game. Are auction houses only in economic nodes? Because that seems pretty crazy, right? Auction houses are sort of a staple of MMOs, and to think that they'd only be in economic nodes was very surprising. And so then all of a sudden we're looking into it, and the other content creators are like, well, no, what about player shops? And so we look at them. It's like, well, wait a minute, player shops are only economic nodes according to the wiki. And okay, well, what about like marketplaces? So then I look at marketplaces. I'm like, wait a minute, those are only economic nodes too. It's like, I think we might have stumbled into a wormhole here where nobody's able to sell anything unless they're in an economic node. So we're all looking at this and we're like, yeah, that's the question. And so the question was, if everything I'm reading is true, according to the wiki, you have markets, auction houses, and I can't even remember the other one, like player shop or player shops were all economic node only. So what does trade look like in the other three nodes? And Steven said he started the answer with the most Steven thing of all, which was, we need to vet the supposition, which was beautiful. Just beautiful to hear him drop vet the supposition. And the supposition is, of course, that those things that I said are only in economic nodes, which he disagreed with. So he clarified. So real quick clarification. 1, auction houses. Correct. Only economic nodes. Okay. So let that noodle around your brain there for a second. You will only get a true auction house in an economic node. 2. Okay. I gotta dial this in here. 2 was markets versus marketplaces. Okay. I asked about markets, and the wiki like separates the two. I don't know how much truth there is in this, but Steven basically talked about marketplaces, but referred to them as market buildings. And what he said was, no, markets, every node will have a market building. And in that market building, you will have player stalls. Okay. So forget the auction house thing. We've already covered that, right? True auction house is economic nodes only. Every node will have a market building with a player stall in it. Now, what's a player stall? I'm sorry, guys. I'm just going to have to roll with this for like a quick minute here. Okay. A player stall is basically a place where you can rent a stall and you can put your stuff up for sale and an NPC will run it. Okay. You don't have to be there in the market. So if you went to the market, you'd be like, oh, holy crap. Look at all these stalls. Think of like your Middle Eastern bazaar, right? Lots of stalls of individual guys' stuff. Okay. Run by an NPC. You pay the money, you rent the stall, you leave, the NPC does the thing. The last one is player shops. Okay. They're also referred to as personal shops. And this one was fun because he had some fun with this one. He said, okay, player shops are different. You get a certificate to open a player shop from the node, presumably the mayor. Again, Sonny for mayor. Once you get your certificate, look, somebody's got to grease the wheels here, all right? So once you get a certificate for a player shop, then if you bought it from any regular old node, not an economic node, that within some sort of proximity with some like perks and stuff that the mayor gets to set, you are just going to sit down, literally sit down and put a sign over your head that says Sonny's Diner, okay? It's gonna say like, this is the LoreForged shop, and then you're going to sell your stuff there, okay? But you can take your shop and go to a different node that has a market building. Remember, market buildings are everywhere, right? So you're not renting a spot in there. You're just going within an area and holding up a sign saying like, hey, here's my thing. Now, the difference between the economic node one and the regular one is if you buy your player shop certificate from an economic node at a metropolis level, you can set up shop anywhere at any time, pretty much. There might be some limitations, but he seemed pretty damn open on it because he was like, right in the middle of a dungeon. You want to like do health pots? Come get your health pots.
That's what I was thinking right in the middle of Carfin. You set up a water table. You guys thirsty?
You guys want some Gatorade? Gatorade's better than water.
Better than water.
So, like, all things being equal, it did seem like if you weren't in an economic node, you're going stall to stall to look for your stuff. You're going shop to buy your stuff. That's a pretty good distinction between an economic node and not an economic node. That's a big deal. I mean, anybody that's ever tried to find something in a place like that and price shop, eek, it's going to be tough. So there's a huge economic advantage to being in an economic node.
You know what, though? I see the opposite of that, too. Like, to take advantage of the markets outside of the economic node. You know, like the people who don't want to travel, the people who don't want to go to other nodes. That's the part that truly excites me the most and what I plan to do. Because I'm probably not going to be hanging out in an economic node very much. I like the idea of doing the player stalls, you know, just in these market areas. I think that is the coolest thing. And I was so glad to hear information about this because that's something that I really want to do is just have a player stall. I don't need to have a player shop. I don't need to have a billboard with me selling Haterade in the middle of Tower of Carfin. You know, like I just want to just have a rent a stall, sell whatever the heck I'm selling, and like just take advantage of that local market, like work that and just have fun within that. And just because it's different and sounds fun. But to hear all these like cool details about that, basically he unveiled like right there that we did not see coming. I don't think anybody here, you know, like saw that happening, and it did. And it was just like, wow, there are so many layers to this MMO. It's just like pages to a book. Like it just keeps going.
Funny that you mentioned layers because I just got done texting my wife that I want grilled onions instead of raw onions on my burger.
Onions have layers, Shrek.
Yeah, they do. So this whole thing reminds me very, very much of something that is very near and dear to my heart, which I've talked about a billion times before on this show, maybe a little bit less than a billion. But the fact that we can have player stalls absolutely reminds me of Star Wars Galaxies. I loved walking through the major towns and just seeing those big chat bubbles over people's heads as they were selling their wares. And I know we talk a lot about gameplay loops and everybody's individual gameplay loops, and especially because we like role play a little bit. And you know how many people are going to be getting into their game, and all their loop is going to be is the artisan system crafting their wares and selling their wares. You are going to walk into towns because of mechanics such as this, and there are going to be people selling things. And if you talk about being able to drop down a player stall anywhere you want, we're going to run into people on the road, in between settlements, in between nodes, that are going to be selling things that you need because you're so far from where your home base is or so far from where your destination is. Think of how much realism that adds to your video game. It's insane. It's going to be awesome. And the depth at which these systems work, like we had to dig for information on how players can sell their wares. And we come up with these very specific questions, and Steven drops bombs on things that we had no idea about.
Yeah.
It does go to show the layers, just like Jibbs was saying, and the depth of the systems in the game. And that is probably, in a general sense, some of the biggest things that I am excited about with Ashes of Creation. These were bombs that he was dropping about this. It's going to add so much flavor to each town you go in. Another thing that you think about is something that came up during the Caravan showcase is that a mayor can set within those buildings, a mayor can set whether or not he or she wants to have a fence in his, like the black market.
That's
in
another
his
thing. That
note
says
or her
nothing
note.
about the black market too, right?
Yup.
Exactly. It's another facet.
Sonny, are we going to have a black market?
Cool, man. That's a tough one, right?
That's a tough one.
That is a real tough one because if you don't have a black market, you might it's a matter of national security, JD. Like, if you invite the black market into your town, then it's kind of hard to like be surprised when people start doing bad things.
It's true.
So to say the caravan and the mayoral caravans that are bringing goods in, it's one of those things where that will be very interesting.
I think the LoreForged guild is going to probably need that. Sonny, I think you're going to probably need to.
I think we're probably going to have one.
Just
I think
why
we're
not?
probably going to have one. And it's going to be a lot of fun too, to have like the Sonny for mayor things with the black market.
It's going to be really cool to have our redacted.
Hey, when are we doing that guild reveal? Do we have a date yet? We want to tell them yet?
We have an internal date that is set, but
Can we tell them yet?
Nope.
I can't wait to do the ad with the black market. I'm going to be like I'll be doing the thing, I'll be telling my little speech and sending for mayor, and then I'm just going to look over to the side. And then there's going to be a cut, and then I'll come back and I'll be like counting cash, and then I'll have the opposite stance.
It'd be funny. So that Sonny, real quick sidebar, that Sonny for Mayor video you did when you're talking about cutting down all the trees, doing a video like that, and then someone going to the market the next day, and all the trees are on the market.
But they're recycled.
They're recycled
pamphlets. Yeah. So in summary on my economic question, I was very happy by it. It was surprising, and it was interesting, and it was deep, and it gave us a bunch of flavor. It's my personal nightmare. All the player stalls and shops and things like that. But it will add a ton of flavor to the game, because those people, like in the chat, those people that loved the economy of Star Wars Galaxy, that's the high watermark for a lot of people's crafting experience in MMOs was Star Wars Galaxies. And it's one of the pillars, not one of the pillars, but one of the inspirations for this game. So we will go on to the last question, which was asked by our good friend Vladis. And that is, can you give some examples of guild tools that are going to be in Ashes of Creation from a player data perspective? And so we will go to our resident guild leader here in LoreForged. Cash, what do you think about this?
I love this question by Vlad. The tools for guild leaders, I think, are going to be more important than a lot of people think they do, because of the coordination that is going to need to take place in between node leaders, guild leaders, alliance leaders, and the like. I think one of the most interesting things in regards to Steven's answer for this question is that he revealed that he was a little bit of an edgelord at age 17.
That was great, wasn't it?
So
I don't want to tell you what I was into at 17.
I laughed just because I guess I'm still kind of an edgelord, but I laughed because of the fact that the term made me laugh, first of all. But you guys, I'm pushing 50 here. I literally had to Google what the hell an edgelord was. I was like, okay. So anyway, if you don't know what an edgelord is, I'm about to define it for you.
Oh, you are perfect. I was going to Google.
An edgelord is a person who affects a provocative or extreme persona, especially online, and typically used of a man. So when I read what an edgelord actually was, I laughed because Steven, at his current age, is the furthest thing from this. He's like an ultra educated, very successful man who is building a dream for us, a bunch of nerds like us.
Do you think he wore Jinkos in the 90s?
What's that?
What was that?
Do you think he wore Jinkos in the 90s?
Oh, Jinkos.
Remember those?
Steven?
Yeah, remember those?
Wow. Nice pull.
Oh, I absolutely do, because I asked a guy this weekend. First of all, there was like another guy that was my age. He was actually younger than me, and his crew, he's in a different department, but his crew asked him old man questions for 4 straight days. There was this one time when he got on a ladder and they're like, careful not to get a skin tear. I was dying. And then I'm like, oh no, this guy's a year younger than I am. But I asked him if he'd ever tight rolled his jeans, and like 4 of the other people had to look it up.
I hate to admit this, but as soon as I know we're way off tangent here, and we're going to get back to the question here, but as soon as he said edgelord, I pictured a 17-year-old Steven, just a skinny kid that looked like JP from Grandma's Boy, just a long leather trench coat.
Yes.
Just be
programming his little game.
His little case of sushi. Click. That's what I pictured right off the bat. Steven, I say in jest. It comes from a place of love, I swear. Okay. Anyway, so let's get back to these to the guild tools and the question that Vlad asked, because I think these guild tools are very, very important. We did find out that Steven is very data driven, and he really wants to bring guild leaders this data so that they can do several things. A majority of which is to kind of gauge how your players are doing, and give you an edge on putting those players, or maybe designing events around those players based on their own playtime, their skills, like where they're doing the best. Now, this kind of encroaches on the depth of skill that you would be able to tell with your players if you had a DPS meter. So this is kind of like him talking about gauging players, but without a DPS meter. So I'm very, very interested to see what kind of data would come out of something like this without having a DPS meter.
I got itchy when I heard that too. When he was talking about the data from guild mates and their performance and things like that, I'm like, here it comes. Here it comes. And a DPS meter. The crowd goes wild.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm very curious to see what he's talking about when he's talking about having data, that kind of will explain how your players are doing. It made a lot more sense when he was talking about like knowing, maybe your play times of your players when most of your folks are coming on, so you can kind of gauge when to set guild events and such. But he wants these tools, like a toolkit for guild leaders, to be native to the game, which is an absolutely beautiful, beautiful thing. So in regards to those player tools, I'm interested to hear from both of you what you think, like what feature for guild leadership do you think is very important and cannot be missed in Ashes?
I know what you're going to say. I feel like I know what you're going to say because you say it every time. You're going to say calendar.
But I want to know what you were going to say.
Okay, here's what I'm going to say. Do you want me to go first, or JB, do you want to go first?
Take it. Run.
Okay, so what I'm going to say is I like what he said about the offline ability to have communication with like a cell phone or something like that, like an app to be able to see things about your guild. And I really enjoyed this with some of the econ stuff where you're able to see auction house stuff offline on my phone, like, oh, look, the thing finally sold. Stuff like that. But for a guild, it's just as important. It's just different, right? Like you want to know what's going on. Is there guild chat going on? Is there, have people joined? What's happening inside there? And then the further you can drill down into players, the better. Barring DPS meter and gear scores. I don't like that. But I do like the idea of having information about like what's going on with those kind of things. Guild bank is an easy one, right? Like if I could see the guild bank offline and know what's moving in and out, how much have people donated to the guild? That's going to be a kind of a big thing, you know, especially when some of these things are going to require money, like a mayoral campaign or a guild freehold that you have a family where you need 10 people to have this. Like, you're going to have banks that are going to involve some of that kind of financing. All of this goes back to like the mayoral stuff. If it's good for the guild, it's great for the mayor, right? Like, the mayor wants that kind of information. They want to know everything that's going on, their budget, all this stuff, what's happening with their plots, what's happening with their businesses, who's got certificates, what's their citizenship doing, things like that. I mean, anything that's good for the guild is also good for the mayor. And that is the kind of stuff.
It's kind of like, it could kind of be like a large city builder.
I mean, there is a world in which the mayor plays like Ashes of Creation mayor online, right? Like, that could be a thing where there's enough depth to it that they're just working on building, like combining the balance between defense and economy, right? Like, guns or butter is the political expression. Like, is this for guns or is this for butter? And you just keep doing it. But like, the ability to see all that stuff offline was what I really loved about his answer, was that he's big on that kind of data transfer, not just having to log into your computer, into your game, into your character, and then go to a place to find that information. Like, we're past that.
I feel like anything I say is probably not going to compete with that. I could just lead with forums sound cool. No.
How in a mailbox?
Yeah, no, he hit the nail on the head.
Maybe a tabard.
Yeah.
I was going to say.
Tabards are cool.
You have a cool tabard.
Oh, honestly, there's something that we didn't touch on this episode, and I know we'll come back to in a future episode because it definitely needs to be talked about. And that is the notion of guild passives. And that's not where I'm going to go with this, but there's an element of it I think could be very cool. So within the guild passives, in short, basically you're going to be able to put people into quote unquote, a lack of a better word, like teams or squads or brackets based off of the passives that you're divvying out. That said, I would really love to be able to have guild chat windows that are for that bracket or that class, that group that you've set aside to put this passive into, to have focused down chat. And yes, the argument can be made, well, that's why you have Discord. You are not wrong. You are not wrong at all. However, just to keep it all in game, I would love something like that. So I don't have to go outside the game. I can do it right here. You know, I think that would just be amazing.
Yeah, the answer that he gave on the other one, it wasn't this guild question, but it was like more like the smaller versus bigger guilds and the perks and stuff. I mean, we could do a whole show on that. And
yeah, absolutely.
We might have to.
We probably
because
will.
That thing was so LoreForged that it's just crazy.
Yeah.
And we are working on our guild. I know we say this every week. Hey, we're working on our guild. We really are. It's like a big thing. And so
a lot of stuff happened this week.
When we heard, I don't know about you guys, but when I heard that information, I'm like, oh boy, like, what does this do? We have to like seriously take a look at this and think about how this changes the mindset of it. And I think that for a lot of people watching that AMA, they might have changed their minds on the structure of how they want to run things, because there's a lot of guilds out there that have ideas on, okay, we're going to have like 6 small guilds, and okay, we're going to have 1 big guild. But the fact that you're able to group it and how the perks move in like a hierarchical sort of fashion, and they can go vertically or horizontally, and like it started to get nuts. So I don't know if we'll be able to even parse it out without like testing it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you really got to think about it as this might not be very interesting for a lot of folks, but when you have folks like us who are going to be running a guild, like things like this are very, very important for us to be able to have these tools. And I think for me, yeah, like Sonny, you nailed it. For me, one of the features for guilds that does exist in MMOs already is, it's that guild calendar. We have to have some type of a malleable calendar that we can set up events with, it just works very, very well natively to the game, so that we can schedule things for our guild. I think it's very important with signups and all that kind of stuff. Now, if we're talking from a perspective of things that I would like to see that, we haven't necessarily seen very much of, I think something that really should be native to this game, or as a, to accompany these game systems as a companion, is an app. Just like you were talking about, to have that app and be able to have in-game communication outside of the game. It's absolutely going to be essential. And that is going to be that message you get on your phone when you're in the middle of a meeting, because you're just getting announcement after announcement, you're getting pinged a bunch of times from this app, because you have folks that are in game that are like, I got to talk to my guild leader now. And I'm not going to lie, I'm really looking forward to those days. I truly am.
That's because you're going to be retired.
Yeah, because you're going to be retired. Your opinion is moot.
Oh yeah, yeah. I will be sitting on my front porch with an old fashioned and a Daniel Boone hat.
Don't let me interrupt your drinking for like a guild event.
I know. It'd be like, sweetie, I love you, and I know that we're in the middle of fishing right now, but I gotta go.
Oh
yeah.
So anyway, I love that question from Vlad. I'm really glad that he asked that question, because it directly affects a very, very big part of our personal gameplay loop. And that is, taking care of our folks, making sure that our folks have fun stuff to do, and that we have the correct tools to bring our people together.
I agree.
Thanks, Vlad, for asking that question.
I agree. Yeah. Well, guys, this was a great AMA, and I know we're going to keep covering it over the future weeks. But wow. Yeah. Great job to everybody who was involved. That was truly, it was just great for the community, and it was great to see the response. I loved it. I loved it, and thank you to Intrepid for putting it together. They're reaching out. It truly meant a lot to us. So thank you. Just thank you. It really meant a lot from us. And I can't wait to see what the future holds for Ashes. It's an exciting time. So 40 episodes, gentlemen.
Oof. Yeah, I mean, I even want to thank you guys for allowing me the opportunity to go ahead and do that one. We talked amongst us and said, like, okay, who's going to do this? And you guys said that I should do it, and I was more than thankful to get that opportunity. It was super fun. I thought I at least represented the show in a way that was honest and true to the show. So we had some fun, and we had some laughs, and I think that we got it out there, right? Like we didn't cower away from the lore. We hit it hard, and we got out alive. So I would say that we did pretty well. And I mean, if people know us now from the lore. My favorite comment in the whole thing was a chat message towards the end where it said, is Lore Guy a politician? I was dying.
My favorite comment was when you asked the lore question, and somebody says, "Oh, LoreForged." I soaked it up. I was like,
lore is not for everyone.
Niche.
Well, you are the best dressed out of all three of us, so
it's true.
It was natural, buddy.
Goodness, yeah, it was a total blast. So
gosh.
Thank you, Intrepid, for doing that, and thank you for inviting us. We had a absolute great time. It was totally worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, everybody, thank you so much for listening to this episode, pushing play, hanging out with us. Everybody here at LoreForged Live, over 40 gifted subs to celebrate 40 episodes. That was incredible. That was really cool. And if you enjoyed this show, everyone who's, whether you're watching on YouTube or you're listening on a podcast app anywhere, let us know how we're doing. Please take a moment, whether it's a comment on YouTube or like the video or listen, or comment, or if you're listening on a podcast app, just leave us a review. Tell us how we're doing. It really does help us and helps us guide this show for the future as well as we continue to grow and venture more into Ashes of Creation. You can always call us at 516-875-1776. And of course, you can always email us, loreforgedhq@gmail.com. Sonny.
You can go to loreforged.com, and that is our link tree that has links to everything, including YouTube. That is youtube.com/@LoreForged, and you can see Cash's cooking recipes for the Varen Chef. And we found out that Intrepid loves the Varen Chef, which was super cool. Turns out that that is something that they love. They love seeing our lore stuff, and they commented on the quality of it, and we died. Each
Still
one
dying.
of us
Seriously.
just died
I teared up in
when
the coffee shop.
he said that, and I didn't even know what to say, so I said something and just tried to get out of there because I was just so full of happiness inside to hear Steven say that they pass around our lore videos in the office. It's just amazing. Twitch, you're watching Twitch right now, probably. That is twitch.tv/LoreForgedHQ, and you can see this. You can see me, and JB was on a stream the other day just talking about stuff. So we're streaming out there. We're getting stuff going. I know Cash is doing some pyrography again. Maybe he gets out on that on the stream at some point. Patreon is going to be a lot of fun because patreon.com/LoreForgedHQ is where you can find all of our stuff early, all the YouTube stuff early. And then also our State of the Owl, which is our special patrons only show. And we are doing a whiskey social coming up. Now, we were going to do the whiskey social coming up in a week, but we are idiots and forgot to tell everybody that we were doing a whiskey social in a week. It turns out the people make plans. So not so good. That one's on us. We're sorry, but we're going to do it in the next month, and we're going to let you know in advance so that you're actually able to join us. And that will be a lot of fun, but we're still going to do a State of the Owl for this month for you, because that is what we want to do. Cash.
Friends, follow us on X. You can find us at LoreForgedHQ. You can follow us on our Instagram page at LoreForgedHQ. And if you have not already done so, don't forget you can join our wide open Discord community. I'd like to welcome some new members this week: Interloper, Allcath, Kieranide, Moon Laborer, and Liliosa. And also a very quick shout out for our folks in our Ashes of Creation discussion area on our Discord. Got into a very spirited conversation, which I'm sure we are going to be covering in the future, on cash shops and emotes and things of such that either should or should not be in a cash shop. And the shout out that I want to give is to everybody who had very differing opinions, but were super respectful to everybody's opinion in there. And it was a real joy to read through that and to reinforce that the folks who are coming to join what we are trying to build are the right folks. You guys are just an amazing community so far, and we're going to continue to build. So thank you very much for that.
Agreed.
Very cool.
Agreed. Well, everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed the show, and we will see you right here next week on LoreForged. Take care, everybody.
Peace, love, and honeybees.
Safe travels, adventures.